You spent somewhere between 12 and 16 years in school. You learned algebra, the periodic table, the causes of historical wars, and how to analyze literature. All useful things in their own way. But there is one subject that will directly determine the quality of your life for the next 50 years: how money actually works. And the overwhelming majority of schools never taught it to you, not once. Nobody showed you how a bank actually makes money. Nobody explained what inflation is doing to your savings right now. Nobody walked you through how interest compounds over time, why your credit score matters so much, or how the gap between where you put your money and where wealthy people put their money creates entirely different financial outcomes over a lifetime. You were handed a diploma and sent into a world built around money with almost no understanding of the rules of the game. Today, we are fixing that. This video covers the foundational money concepts that schools skipped, explained clearly with real examples, so that by the time we are done, you will have a working understanding of how money actually moves, grows, shrinks, and works in the real world. Let's get into it. What money actually is. Most people think of money as a thing, a physical object with inherent value. But money is not a thing. Money is an agreement. It is a shared belief system that a particular token, whether a coin, a paper note, or a digital number on a screen, can be exchanged for goods and services. The moment enough people stop believing in that agreement, the money loses its value. This has happened repeatedly throughout history, and understanding it changes how you think about holding cash. For most of human history, money was tied to something physical: gold, silver, grain, cattle. The value was anchored to something real. But since 1971, when the United States officially left the gold standard, the dollar and most major world currencies have been what economists call fiat money. Fiat simply means by decree. The currency has value because the government says it does, and because enough people and institutions trust that declaration. The dollar in your wallet is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government, and nothing more physical than that. Why does this matter practically? Because fiat currency can be created by governments and central banks in unlimited quantities. When more money is created without a corresponding increase in the goods and services available to buy, each individual unit of currency buys less than it did before. That process is called inflation, and it is one of the most important forces operating on your financial life, whether you are aware of it or not. How inflation quietly erodes your wealth. Inflation is often described as rising prices, but that description misses the deeper reality. Inflation is the declining purchasing power of money. Prices are not going up in any fundamental sense. Money is going down in value. The coffee that cost $2 10 years ago and costs $4 today has not doubled in value. The dollar has lost half its purchasing power relative to that coffee. The U.S. Federal Reserve targets an annual inflation rate of around 2%. That sounds harmless, but at 2% annual inflation, the purchasing power of money halves roughly every 35 years. At the higher inflation rates seen in 2022, when U.S. inflation peaked at over 9%, purchasing power can erode dramatically in just a few years. Every dollar sitting in a bank account earning 0.01% interest while inflation runs at 3% is losing roughly 3% of its real value every single year. You are not breaking even by keeping cash in a regular savings account. You are slowly losing. This is one of the most important reasons why investing is not optional for anyone who wants to maintain and grow their financial position over time. The baseline for investment returns is not zero. It is whatever inflation is running at. If your money is not growing at least as fast as inflation, you are falling behind in real terms, even if the number in your account stays the same or slowly grows. How banks actually make money. Most people think of banks as safe storage facilities for their money. You deposit money, the bank keeps it safe, and you withdraw it when you need it. That is not really how banks work, and understanding the reality changes how you think about the entire financial system. Banks operate on a model called fractional reserve banking. When you deposit money in a bank, the bank is legally required to keep only a fraction of that deposit on hand as reserves, historically around 10%, though requirements have varied significantly. The rest of your deposit is lent out to other customers as mortgages, car loans, business loans, and personal credit. The bank pays you a small interest rate on your deposit, often nearly nothing at traditional banks, and charges borrowers a significantly higher interest rate on the money it lends out. The difference between what it pays depositors and what it charges borrowers is called the net interest margin, and it is how banks generate their core profit. Here is the striking implication of this. When you deposit $10,000 in a traditional bank account earning 0.01% interest, your money is being lent out to mortgage borrowers at 7%, to credit card holders at 22%, and to businesses at 5 to 8%. The bank is earning substantial returns on your capital and paying you almost nothing for the privilege of using it. High-yield savings accounts at online banks offer a better deal, currently 4 to 5%, because their lower overhead costs allow them to share more of that margin with depositors. But the fundamental dynamic is the same. Understanding this is the first step towards making more deliberate decisions about where your money sits and what it earns while it waits. If this is already filling in gaps that school left behind, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel right now. There is new content every week designed to give you the financial education most people never received, and it is always completely free. Now, let's keep going because we still have some of the most important concepts to cover. The two types of income and why the difference matters enormously. One of the most consequential concepts that almost nobody teaches is the difference between earned income and passive income, and specifically how differently the tax system treats them in most countries. Earned income is money you receive in exchange for your time and labor, your salary, your hourly wages, your freelance fees. This type of income is typically taxed at the highest rates. In the United States, federal income tax rates on earned income go up to 37% for the highest earners, and most working people pay between 22 and 24% on income above certain thresholds, plus payroll taxes on top of that. Passive income and investment income, dividends from stocks, capital gains from selling investments held for more than a year, rental income from property, are often taxed at significantly lower rates. Long-term capital gains tax rates in the United States are 0%, 15%, or 20%, depending on your income level. This means that a dollar earned from selling a long-held investment can be taxed at literally half the rate of a dollar earned from going to work. This is not a loophole or a mistake. It is a deliberately designed feature of the tax code, one that wealthy people who earn primarily through investments take full advantage of, and one that most working people who earn primarily through wages never benefit from at all. Understanding this distinction is not an argument for any particular tax policy. It is simply a clear explanation of why building investment income alongside earned income is one of the most powerful financial moves available to an ordinary person. Every dollar you shift from being taxed as earned income to being taxed as long-term capital gains is a dollar that keeps significantly more of itself. How compound interest works for you and against you. We have covered compound interest in depth in other videos on this channel, but in the context of understanding how money works, it deserves a focused explanation here because it operates as the most powerful wealth-building tool available and the most powerful wealth-destroying force, depending entirely on which side you are on. When you invest money and earn returns, and those returns then earn their own returns, you are on the right side of compounding. A $10,000 investment growing at 10% per year becomes $17,000 after 6 years, $26,000 after 10 years, and $174,000 after 30 years, without ever adding another dollar. Time is the ingredient that makes compound growth transformative, which is why starting early is so much more powerful than starting with more money later.
When you carry debt and pay interest, and that interest compounds on the growing balance you fail to pay off, you are on the wrong side of compounding. A $5,000 credit card balance at 22% interest, with only minimum payments being made, takes over 15 years to pay off and costs more than $8,000 in interest alone, meaning you pay more in interest charges than the original amount you borrowed. The same mathematical force that builds wealth through investing destroys it through high-interest debt. Understanding that compound interest is a tool that cuts both ways is one of the most practically useful pieces of financial knowledge you can have.
The difference between assets and liabilities. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, whatever you think of the book overall, introduced one genuinely important distinction to millions of readers: the difference between assets and liabilities. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. And the financial gap between wealthy people and everyone else can largely be explained by which of these two things they spend their money acquiring. A share of an index fund is an asset. It pays dividends and grows in value over time, putting money into your pocket. A rental property generating positive cash flow after all expenses is an asset. A business that operates and generates profit without requiring your constant personal involvement is an asset. A savings account in a high-yield account is a modest asset. These things work for you. A car purchased on finance depreciating at 15% per year while you pay 7% interest on the loan is a liability. A wardrobe full of expensive clothes you wear occasionally is a liability. A timeshare that charges annual maintenance fees is a liability. A mortgage on a primary home is technically a liability, despite what many people assume, because it takes money out of your pocket every month, though the equity building and inflation protection it provides make the picture more nuanced than pure liability. The key question to ask about any major purchase is simple: will this put money into my pocket over time or take it out? Building your financial life around accumulating things that put money in while minimizing things that take money out is the foundation of every wealth-building strategy that actually works. How the financial system is designed and where you fit in it. The final concept worth understanding is the broadest one: how the overall financial system is structured and where an ordinary person sits within it. This is not about conspiracy or cynicism. It is simply about seeing the system clearly so you can make better decisions within it. The financial system is designed, in large part, to move money from people who do not understand it toward people who do. Banks profit from the gap between what they pay depositors and what they charge borrowers. Credit card companies profit from people who carry balances. Insurance companies profit from people who are overinsured. Investment banks profit from complex products that generate fees. The advertising industry profits from manufacturing desire that drives consumption. None of these are inherently malicious. They are businesses operating in their own interest, as all businesses do. But they are all operating in ways that are financially beneficial to them and potentially detrimental to you if you engage with them without understanding what is actually happening. The people who navigate this system most effectively are not the ones who opt out of it entirely. That is not really possible. They are the ones who understand its incentives clearly enough to use the parts that serve them and avoid or minimize the parts that do not. They use banks as tools rather than letting banks use them as resources. They borrow only for appreciating assets or genuine necessities at the lowest available rates. They invest in ownership rather than consuming the financial products designed to extract fees. They understand that their financial well-being is their own responsibility, not the financial industries, not the governments, and certainly not the school systems. Money is not complicated by nature. It has been made to feel complicated by an industry that benefits from your confusion. Strip it back to the fundamentals: what money is, how inflation erodes it, how banks use it, how taxes treat different types of it, how compounding works for and against you, what assets and liabilities actually mean, and how the overall system is structured, and the path forward becomes much clearer. You were never taught these things in school.
That was not your fault. But from this point forward, not knowing them is a choice. The knowledge exists, it is accessible, and the resources to go deeper are all linked in the description below. Books, tools, and guides that will take everything covered today much further. Drop a comment and tell me which concept in this video was the most surprising or the most useful to you. I genuinely read every single one, and I love hearing what lands. And if you are not already subscribed, please do that now so you do not miss what is coming next. If this video opened your eyes to how money really works, the next one will take it even further. We are going deep on why some people stay broke no matter how much they earn, the psychological and behavioral patterns that keep the cycle going regardless of income level, and exactly what it takes to break out of them. It's one of the most eye-opening topics in personal finance, and I think you are going to find it genuinely valuable.